and a welcome to you, a warm welcome indeed. Roy Noble here, and it's a great privilege and pleasure to be a Bevan Commissioner as we gather together for this auspicious occasion. Croeso cynnes I chi gyd, fel ni nawr wedi dod at ein gilydd fel casgliad arbennig am y diwrnod yma sy'n mynd i, wel, godi'r ysbryd fi'n gobeithio, something that will be uplifting. The showcase for the Adopt and Spread program, supporting adoption sites as they take Bevan exemplar innovation across Wales. Do you know, I've always been rather jealous of those who are innovators and creators in that kind of way. Does it come in a flash or does it gradually build in the mind? Somebody once told me that the world is divided into two kinds of people, those who do and those who get the credit for it. Actually, I believe that the world is divided into three kinds of people, those who make things happen, those who watch things happen, and those who merely ask, what's happening then? The bystanders. You really need the movers and the shakers and the doers and the makers. And the dreamers, of course. But the dreamers need the doers to put the rivets in the dreams so that those dreams will come to fruition and take you to that extra mile. You will find that the extra mile is never crowded, really. They do say that Humphrey Davy and Edison in stages produced the electric light bulb. But I bet you the extra mile saw that the man who invented the meter made all the money, don't you think? Now then, the Bevan Commission has been leading the National Adopt and Spread program across Wales over the last 18 months, building on the work over the last 5 years with the Bevan exemplar innovators indeed. And 15 of the Bevan exemplar innovators were selected to share their innovative work with a new site. Over 50 new adoption sites have taken on one of these great innovations, let me tell you. And over 150 people have been involved in the adoption and spread of innovations right across Wales. Now, the work, you must remember, has taken place during COVID-19, and the participants have had to work exceptionally hard over and above the work they normally do, because all this is an extra for most of them. And they've had an impact on us all, and to ensure that we learn from the program and the ideas that they've actually come up with. Now then, there is a panel of project members with us today, and they participated in the Adopt and Spread program, and they have guests with them as well, so everyone is very, very welcome. And they will be ready to answer questions. And if you could put your questions in the chat box, the host will make sure that your question is asked, and hopefully that it is answered as well. So you're welcome again. So be prepared to be interested, to be enthralled, and to be inspired by what is on offer today. Diolch yn fawr i chi. Mwynhewch. Enjoy.
Hello and welcome to the Bevan Commission Adopt and Spread Innovation Showcase. Back in 2015, we set off with the Bevan Exemplar programme, and we found that across the NHS in Wales, there were many examples of fantastic innovation that we could develop and we could spread and share them across the NHS. But there was nothing in place to support people to do these things. There was nothing in place to support people to spread their innovation, and there was nothing in place, critically in this instance, to support people to adopt the innovation. Because whilst innovation is great and fun to do, the process of adopting the innovation is also great and fun, but it's quite hard work. So we set about with the Adopt and Spread Innovation Programme to help the adopters to adopt the innovation, to adapt it and to improve it to context. When we set out, we had 150 exemplar projects, and we asked them who was interested in joining the programme. About 50 of them said yes, and we supported those to try and find adoption sites. Through a process of elimination and people demonstrating interest in an application, we whittled that down to 15 projects that started off the blocks almost 18 months ago from today. Over that period of time, a couple of them have dropped off because of COVID, but 13 projects will join us over the next couple of days with 40 or more adoption sites to share their experiences of taking part in the programme, but most importantly, their experiences of delivering and supporting innovation adoption across the NHS in Wales. I think it's been a fantastic journey. I've really enjoyed it in the part that I've played. I think that the people you will hear from are absolutely inspirational and formidable agents for change and innovation across the NHS in Wales. And I'm hopeful, no, I'm sure that you will enjoy listening to their stories, and hopefully you will ask them questions to learn from their experiences. So I will hand you over to your host, who will take you through the rest of the day. Have a really great.
Hello, welcome and Shemai. This is a great pleasure for me to introduce this particular team because in my opinion, and I'm slightly biased, this is probably the poster child of all of the Adopt and Spread programs. And it's a great heartwarming project too, because most of us can think back to when we learnt to read and write and when we spent time with our parents and family members, understanding the world and learning. So from childhood memories to being an adult and working with your own children is quite a special occasion and a special set of memories. So my name's Nick Rich. I support the Bevan program because I do the evaluations and I mirror what's happening in Bevan and have done so for the past 6 years. And it's my pleasure to introduce the Be Here, Be Clear project team of speech and language therapists and also of early year practitioners. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to the team in front of you today. So the first person I'd like to introduce is Catherine Pape. Catherine, over to you.
Thank you, Nick. Hi, everybody. My name's Catherine Pape. I'm a speech and language therapist. I've been working in Flying Start in Powys for several years, and this project came from there. It's just been amazing this last year working with the rest of this team, and I'm really looking forward to talking to you more about the project today. Thank you, Nick. Oh, you're on mute, Nick.
Back off mute, hopefully. There are many people in this world that like to put me on mute, and I think there's some relatives of mine that wish they had a remote control that could do so too, let alone my students. So I do apologise for that. I'd like to introduce you now to Catherine Seeney, who's also one of our panel members today. Catherine.
Hi, everyone. My name's Catherine Seeney, and I am a speech and language therapist working in Flying Start on Anglesey. And I've adopted this project to train our family workers within the Flying Start project on Anglesey to deliver to our families on Anglesey.
Lovely, good for Innes Morn. Okay, our next panel member is Miriam Jones. Miriam, all yours.
Hi, my name's Miriam. I'm the senior team lead for Cardiff Flying Start for the speech and language team. We've adopted the project here in Cardiff to be used by the speech and language team with families who need targeted support with us as part of the Flying Start project.
Great, welcome aboard. Our next panel member is Emily Adams. Emily, would you like to introduce yourself? Or have we lost Emily?
I think Emily's struggling to get in, Nick. She's just, I'm not sure she's with us, sorry.
No worries, not to worry. I'll pass you on instead then to Joanne Evans. Joanne?
Good afternoon, my name is Joanne Evans. I work for the Talk and Play team under the Community Wellbeing and Resilience Service in RCT.
Oh, good for Rhondda Cullen Taff, a place after my own heart. Okay, our next panel member then is Jodie Hayden. Jodie, are you there?
Hi, I'm Jodie Hayden. I work for the Early Language Intervention team in Caerphilly. We work with both families in Flying Start and Families First to offer this intervention.
Go Caerphilly. I'm a Tonga nice boy, so I'm a little bit biased. And our next and the last panel member, by no means least, is it's Jenny Waddle. Jenny, I know you've had problems trying to get on. Are you there? Yeah, hello.
Yeah, I am here, but it keeps on dropping out. So if I disappear, that's why. So I'm Jenny. I'm the speech and language therapist working in RCT's Community Wellbeing and Resilience Service. And we adopted this Be Here.
Oh, bless. I think we've lost her again. Oh, the Welsh gerbil that runs our internet and runs round and round in its wheel has obviously slowed down a little bit somewhere across the nation. Not to worry, though. This is the poster team. This is the project I'm backing, which is why I wanted to come and sit on this one, because I love what this team have done. It's quite truly amazing in a period of COVID to get adoption sites up and running. So now you've met the team. We're now going to play a video about the project. I know Chris will need a couple of minutes or a couple of seconds just to tee that up, but
Okay, so what is this approach to ACI? So it's not about identifying interaction strategies that the parent carer isn't using just yet. It's about helping parents and carers to identify and build on the interaction strategies that are already present and are particularly helpful when continuing to support children to learn to talk. It is ACI focused, so all the Talk With Me key messages are based on ACI, and so is this approach too. It's video feedback. So in Blaenau Gwent, families sent us short video clips showing play interactions with their children. The staff that we trained then reviewed those video clips alongside the parents, and they encouraged them to identify what was going well and to support future play interaction goals going forward.
brilliant. And we're back. So now that you know what the program was like and what actually happened, it's time to throw open the floor to questions and also to pick any questions that come in through the chat. So I'd like to pose the first question to Catherine Pape. Catherine, can you please summarise what's happened for the innovation and how it's spread across Wales as part of the Adopt and Spread programme, please?
Yes, thank you, Nick. So as I mentioned earlier, Be Here, Be Clear started as a Bevan exemplar, which was piloted in Flying Start in Powys in a very small team and had early successful results. And when I was approached to apply for the Adopt and Spread programme, I was hopeful that a few other areas might be interested in taking it on, and was really, really pleased when initially we had 4 or 5 applications, and then when later the additional adoption sites also came on board. From my point of view, I would have probably sort of stuck my head in the sand and not done very much about it, had it not been for the enthusiasm of my colleagues, some of whom are on the panel today, others I know are watching in the audience, and others not with us today. Just really passionate colleagues who've been really keen to work out how we can adapt Be Here, Be Clear to their local area and the needs of their services. And it's definitely been the personalities involved and the motivation, not just from my colleagues, but also from Joe and Rupa from the Bevan Commission, which have encouraged, motivated, persuaded me to carry on taking this forward. So yeah, thank you all ever so much for all of the hard work that's gone into this. I feel like I've been sort of sitting back a little bit and watching it happen over the last year. And everybody else has just done loads of amazing work. So yeah, that's it in a nutshell.
Confused. So how did it actually start? What location did you start in?
So the Flying Start in Powys covers 5 different areas, and we piloted Be Here, Be Clear in Brecon and Landron Dodwells initially. That was probably 3.5-4 years ago. And we worked closely with our health visiting team in Flying Start to get that going in Powys at that stage.
And then where did it go from Powys, Catherine?
So the initial adoption sites to take it on were Cardiff, Anglesey, Swansea and Caerphilly. They were the 4 original sites to take it on. So they applied and were successful in the initial round of the Adopt and Spread programme, and then Newport and Blaen y Gwent and RCT all joined a little bit later on.
Brilliant. So a real mix of sort of urban and rural settings then.
Yeah, and
nice.
Really different challenges in each area as well.
Brilliant. Good for you guys. So I guess in terms of moving on, Jodie and Joanne, if I could turn to Jodie first, what are the advantages of using a strengths-based approach, and how different is it to sort of other traditional approaches that people use to support parents?
I think because it's a strengths-based approach, the parents are quite keen to take it up, that knowing that we're going to be looking at what is going well, what are they already doing to help their child. So it sort of breaks down barriers straight away, that we're not making any judgments, we're not pulling out what they're not doing, what they should be doing. It's very different from other approaches because we're very much working collaboratively with the parents. So we're not doing it for them. We're empowering them to see the skill set they already have and to use that. So we're looking to empower, and the confidence that it brings out has been absolutely staggering. It's been really lovely to see.
So how do you identify the strengths in the people you're working with then?
The video does all the work for you. So the video is so powerful for the parents to watch it back. And I think so many of the parents I work with, they often do this thing where they blame themselves. They've given themselves that label of blame, and that their child is not speaking because of something they may have done. Whereas when we can look at the video, we can actually see all the wonderful things the parent are doing. And I think when we take pressure off the parent, we therefore take pressure off the child as well.
Lovely. So it sounds very liberating, doesn't it, for a parent? I mean, it's quite daunting to know what to do.
It's very liberating as a practitioner as well. And what I always say to other people is we should never step away from the fact of how privileged we are that the parents let us in, and let us film them. You know, that's. I think it's very important to remember parents don't have to do that. They don't have to show us everything on a video. So we need to hold on to the fact that we're privileged, that we've made these relationships, and the parents are happy for us to do it.
Oh, lovely. And I think Jodie has now just teed you up beautifully, Joanne, for what does it feel like to be a practitioner out there and deliver this type of service?
It's fantastic. I mean, I can speak for myself. The experience has been amazing. I follow on from what Jodie said, because Be Here, Be Clear is a parent-led approach. The parents are able to build on the strengths that they already have. And I think that's really empowering. They choose their own realistic and achievable targets. And because we build on what they're already doing and not on what we want them to do, they can identify the benefits for themselves. I know some parents look back at videos they've previously sent, and they can see the difference for themselves, and it's really fantastic for us. Like Jodie said, the work is done. The videos provide all the work for us.
Oh, lovely. So, do you know how many sort of people you've worked with, Joanne, in terms of delivering this benefit?
Off the top of my head, I would say about 30 parents. We adopted the programme at the end of last year, so and with quite a few challenges, technical challenges, we got through. Yes, we've worked really hard. I mean, we're a really small team. We're a team of 6.
Wow.
So it has been a real challenge, but we have got there, and we've got a really supportive team. And as Jodie said, with the parents as well, we are really privileged that they've taken everything on board, and we work well together as a team.
So as a practitioner, was it easy to sort of step up on this learning curve and just adopt a new way and all 6 of you get on board?
No, as I say, we hit some challenges. We had issues around uploading videos. Because the previous way we worked with the Welcome, we would provide support videos, and we were having difficulties ourselves with the memories on our phones uploading videos that were sort of more than 4 minutes long. So that was one of the issues for us. We were asking parents to upload short videos, and some of them would send them quite long. We had issues where the platform was clashing with the internet and the network that we were using with our work computers. And as well, we wondered how parents were going to accept the fact that we were using a parent-child-led approach of sending videos, because we were already working with some of the parents, in the old way. And some of them, we didn't think they would be open to recording themselves and then sending us videos of them playing with a child. I mean, it's quite daunting, isn't it? But yes, on the whole, we got over everything. The parents were fantastic. They were open to the idea, and they sent them. And then, as you know, the videos spoke for themselves. The parents really enjoyed watching the videos back, and they were able to identify the areas that they were strong in themselves, and then choosing targets was really easy for them. They enjoyed them.
Brilliant. Good for you guys. I think I'm going to bring in this point Catherine Seeney now, because Catherine, what's been the impact on you personally and professionally of being involved with the Adopt and Spread programme, and what's the best thing about Adopt and Spread in your opinion?
I think really it's kind of opened a whole new world to me. I didn't know a lot about the Bevan Commission before. I signed up for this Adopt and Spread project, and now having learned more about what the Bevan Commission do and the innovation, it's been so exciting to be part of this project and to bring it up to Anglesey. We're a very small project up in Anglesey, and I wanted to introduce an ACI approach into our Flying Start project, and I was wondering how I was going to do that on my own, thinking about because I'm the sole speech and language therapist within the project. And so here came this fantastic opportunity, a funded opportunity to network with other speech and language therapists across Wales, and also to have lots of training on all manner of things, really, that I could learn to bring this project to fruition. And I think particularly in this last year of COVID, it's been great to be around such energetic and positive people, and to have been able to upskill with certainly the IT, the virtual platforms that we've had to adapt to. So for me, it's been really, really positive, both personally and professionally, because I've been able to develop in my NHS role as well, thanks to a lot of the courses that I've attended.
Brilliant. Oh, good for you. So I think I'll return now to Catherine Pape, if you don't mind, Catherine. In terms of what happens, though, if your mother language is not English or Welsh? Can communities with different languages that don't have English and Welsh as their first language get involved and participate in a meaningful manner?
Thank you, Nick. Yes, I think I've just spotted that Emily has joined us, and I think she's probably going to be quite well placed to answer this question. But I'll just briefly say, certainly it can be used with families where English or Welsh are not the first language. What you essentially do is you ask the parent to interact with the child in the language that they are most comfortable using with their child, and then you work with the parent either via an interpreter or directly if the parent speaks English or Welsh themselves, and you get them to help you to identify those kind of moments that you're looking for where things are going well. So it can be adapted to any language or culture. But if I could hand over to Emily, I think she'll probably be able to answer that question a bit more fully.
Hello. Thank you. I hope everyone can hear me. I'm so sorry that I'm late. I can't apologise anymore. But yes, definitely it can be used effectively with populations that might have English as an additional language. I haven't done that myself yet, but my colleague that did the pilot alongside me has done exactly that. And it's worked absolutely fine. And I think that there's two kind of key factors that make it effective. And the first thing being that so much of our communication is non-verbal. So a lot of the things we would be reinforcing about interaction wouldn't be necessarily about the words or about the grammar or about the sounds. It's about kind of your positioning with your little one and whether you're waiting for them to initiate and whether you're responding to those initiations and imitating their gestures and lots of things like that. So all the things that we can notice about an interaction, you know, it doesn't really matter what language they're speaking, we can notice those things anyway. And the other thing is that's part of the benefit of having the video, because you can play it back. If you do want to talk about language content and vocabulary and that kind of thing, and whether they're extending on adding language to their child's comments, for example, you've got that video where you can say, what did they just say there? And then how did you respond to that? And then you can reinforce it. So that's so useful and something that you wouldn't be able to do if you were just feeding back after watching an interaction. You can kind of use the video as your point of focus together. So it does work. It can work just as effectively. And obviously, if you ask them to interact in their own language, it goes along with what we know that's best. We'd rather a child have that natural and accurate language models in the home language, and then that probably makes the sessions more impactful because that will represent more accurately what they're going to go away and do the following week. So it's much more transferable then to that family.
That's lovely. Emily, tell us a little bit about yourself and where in Wales do you practice?
Thank you. I'm Emily Adams and I'm a speech and language therapist, and I work partly for Flying Start, which is how I'm involved in this, in Newport, and then I also work half the week in community clinic at specialist level, and again that's in Newport in South Wales as part of an Bevan University Health Board.
Lovely. And do you see the same type of enthusiasm and motivation rise with the parents as you guide them through this strengths-based approach?
Definitely. It's been absolutely lovely to do something that's so strengths-based professionally, and just it's been so enjoyable. Sorry. But yeah, it's been fantastic, and I think I've worked with parents who otherwise might have accessed kind of an advice giving model, and it's been really nice to see their confidence and also how comfortable they are with discussing things with me and asking me questions grow as we've done the programme together. So I've done it with a couple of families, and it's been such a positive experience, and normally they reflect that. They spontaneously have given me that as feedback, where they've said, oh, I was a bit nervous when you said about filming, but it's been so lovely and I'm realizing what I am doing, and I've had some lovely quotes that I've been writing down as I've gone along, because it's just generated that lovely feedback really naturally. So like the most recent one that I did it with at the end said, oh, my confidence is a 10 out of 10. I know what I'm doing. I'm ready to go and I just need to go and do it. And we definitely hadn't started in that place. So it's been really nice to do with the families, and yeah, probably generated the most natural positive feedback that I've had from an interaction, because it is just focusing on those positives, and it gives them a real boost, and then they naturally are interacting with their child more often because they feel confident that they are doing good things. So it's been so enjoyable, and you know, I feel like we've built a really nice relationship through that. They don't see me as I'm going to tell them what to do. We've really worked in partnership a lot more than sometimes we do with other approaches.
Brilliant. I think most of us have pictures of our children in certain situations, but we don't have this type of digital legacy. And I know, Jodie, you know, you've experienced a lot of this. So can you give us some examples of the impact on the families that you've worked with, please?
Yeah, very much as Emily has said. I see a very different person that walks in at the beginning to the person that walks in at the end. The parents are so empowered to realise that they do have the skills. So it really builds on their confidence, and using the videos, we can see, again, beginning to end, how those interactions have improved. As I've said before, because we're taking that pressure off the parent, and then the parent is taking the pressure off the child, it's leading to much nicer interactions. And, you know, they're being a lot more responsive with their children. We do pre and post evaluations as well for distance travelled, and we are getting great feedback, and we are seeing a lot of great change.
And do parents with multiple children, is there a better relationship between the children themselves? Do you see that as part of the programme?
Yeah, absolutely, because sometimes parents become so focused on working on difficulties with a child that sometimes the other children might not get a look in. Whereas now, when they know that they have got the skill set and they have got the confidence, then it benefits the whole family long term.
Brilliant. Joanne, have you seen impacts, and what have families said about the approach?
Yes, definitely seen big impacts. You know, parents have said, you know, although I was confident to play before, I wasn't sure whether I was doing enough or too much. And I think, you know, by looking at the videos together, and then the parents building on those strengths that they already had, they can see the difference. And because they can see the difference, I mean, most of the second targets my parents choose is to play more, and that's because they can see the impact that first session has had with them playing together. And you know, once you've gone through, you talked about the strengths that they already have, and the parents have seen those for themselves. They're really encouraged, and they're empowered to go on, and they want to do more. And that's definitely had an impact with families with more than one child as well, where, you know, they've sort of said, oh, I've actually did this with my other child as well, or I've worked with them together. You know, where they've rolled a ball 2 ways, you know, where they've incorporated the targets into the family play, and they've come back and they've had new ideas that they want to go forward with. So yeah, it's had a real lovely impact, actually. You know, I've had parents say to me, he wants to play with me now, whereas before, you know, he wasn't interested. Or I talk to him differently now. I think that's the most, that's the really nice one I've had recently. You know, the mother could see that she said, I talk to him differently now. I really noticed that. And because of that, he understands more. And I think that really shows on the videos. And because, you know, we can see it and the parents can see it, it definitely has a real big impact.
Oh, fair play. I think we should bottle your enthusiasm, because it's all pretty infectious from the panel. And to have a positive impact on the mental health of a parent during COVID, when everybody's sort of going on television saying, I don't like this homeschooling, I don't want, you know, it's all hell on earth. But to you to actually have something that's completely different is phenomenal. So I guess I know there's a question in the chat, but before we move into the chat, can I just look at, from the group now, can you give examples of what the barriers and challenges have been? I know we've talked a little bit about bandwidth and phones, but what are the barriers, challenges and frustrations, and what have you done to overcome them if you have? Catherine, would you like to start? Catherine B.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to your internet gerbil, Nick. I like that. The Welsh internet gerbil, living in Brecon. He's alive and well in Brecon. But actually, for me personally, I would have been really, really reluctant to make this into a virtual intervention had it not had to happen. That would have been well down the line in terms of my priorities. So when the Adopt and Spread project kicked off, it was kind of last autumn. So it was only a couple of months in really that the pandemic hit. And it was, as I said earlier, it was the enthusiasm and motivation of all of my colleagues here to just make it happen in spite of such challenging circumstances. And hearing Jodie and Joanne talk so passionately about the impact on families is just what makes it all worth it. And as you're kind of going through that process of like, which platform are we going to use, and is the internet going to work, and how are we going to manage the training, and how many people can we have, and all of that stuff, where it feels like a bit of a grind, when you get to the end point and you get that feedback from practitioners and families, it's that's what makes it all worthwhile. It's just fantastic to hear. So from my point of view, certainly it was my own motivation to make it happen online that was the biggest barrier, and everybody else's enthusiasm to make it happen anyway that was the facilitator.
Oh, good for you guys. Emily, did you have anything? You have a very diverse community that you service. Did you have any frustrations or issues?
I think probably for me, it's getting that initial buy-in from the family. So the model that we had to pick up in Newport, we don't have the capacity to offer it preventatively for every family. So we're using it in a more targeted way, and for families that have maybe declined our more traditional interventions that are group-based. For children who've been identified as needing a bit of a boost with their communication development, and I think that's been challenging for us because they've already declined an intervention. So then trying to get them to accept one that involves filming them has been a challenge, and some families have missed out on it because they're just not in the place where they're able to kind of take on board another thing. So that has been a shame because it's really, when you are working with families and you know how positive an experience it is and what impact it could have on those families, they're within their rights to decline. So when they decline it, I always feel it's a bit of a shame for them. But that's not to say that in 3 months' time, things might be different for that family and they might be in a better kind of space to access it at that point. So we've kind of built in, you might decline now, but you're happy for me to maybe re-ask you in a couple of months in case something has changed, so that they get that second opportunity to take it on. And I think we're building feedback, and we're building that kind of bank of points that might encourage families to engage in it, because we've had these lovely quotes from parents that we can share and say, a couple of parents have said it's been X, Y, Z, and we can pass on that lovely feedback we've had. But I think it's just convincing them at the start, when you say, I'm going to film you and you need to sign a consent form, obviously that can feel a little intimidating. But it's so worth it once you have done that work to kind of get them on board, because it is really positive for them. But I think potentially the initial assumption is that we're going to critique them, and then they're surprised at how positive it feels when we just notice what they're already doing. But yeah, and obviously having a population of English as an additional language, population in Newport, having to adapt information and being able to ensure that people do understand what they're consenting to and what it's going to involve. There's been, we're doing work around like translation of forms, and looking into that so that we can really kind of target and access a wider demographic of families.
Lovely. Miriam, did you have any frustrations during your experience of the programme?
So our biggest frustration was that we weren't ever able to overcome being able to deliver virtually. So we had to wait until COVID restrictions eased enough that we were able to go out into the home. So that was a frustration for us, just waiting and being trained and the team were ready to go and they were eager to get out in the homes. We're just waiting on COVID being able to do that, really. So the team have now gone out into the homes and are really enjoying it. So they're in the position where they're able to deliver this face-to-face with families, which has just been refreshing for them, I think, after a year of being on phones and over videos, but also to be able to actually deliver the program as it was designed to be, face-to-face, has been a really positive experience for them. So yeah, it was just having the patience.
Oh, good for you guys. I guess I'll go quickly then to, we have a question from Helen Joseph, who's the Early Years Transformation Program leader. Catherine asks in the chat, Catherine, you mentioned that there are some courses. Can you share the ones that you've attended, please?
Yep. So we attended 6 network days as part of the project, and within each of those we had different speakers. So Nick, for example, came and delivered some training on swimming lanes and A3 plans, so to help us to sort of plan our projects. I've also done some coaching, so signed up for some coaching training, behaviour change training. When we knew that this was all going to be delivered virtually, the Bevan Commission came up with some training for Microsoft Teams, so that we were able to upskill, for me to then go and train other people to use the platform to deliver this approach. And also we've had media training. I've been into some very different worlds, so it's been really interesting. So really diverse offerings, and there was other options available. So for people coming in to do a project with the Bevan Commission, they really will offer a lot of courses to upskill. So, and you can make suggestions also if you feel that there's something that you feel you would benefit from. Then the Bevan Commission are really open to suggestions and will do their very best to find really high level speakers to deliver those courses to you.
Good for you. Some of the sessions are quite spooky, actually. Some of the sessions, I believe, actually Sean does tend to put his pink hat on and walk around with a French horn, blowing his horn at attendance, which is quite bizarre. But I have yet to work out, after 20 years of knowing him, how Sean Charles's brain actually works. But love him. So I think it's probably right and proper now that we have a short video before we go to the next set of discussions. So the video that you're about to see will highlight all of the projects, showcasing over the lunchtime sessions. So please have a good look. Excellent. We're now back. There's a good spread of projects, and we've heard in the first part just how enthusiastic everybody is from a practitioner point of view, a change in practice and a meaningful service improvement, as well as the benefits from the adults and the children that have taken part in the programme. So I guess I'll bring Catherine Pate back in again now. Catherine, I know this is quite a personal question, really, and you'll forgive me for asking it, but you're the Bevan exemplar, and you set your initial project up a couple of years ago before now spreading it. So what are your thoughts as you see your project, your little baby, the programme that you developed? What are your thoughts as you see this spread across Wales with this talented team around you?
I was just thinking as the others were speaking, they are so much more articulate in describing it and explaining it than I am. It's so fantastic that they're all here to do it, because as you said, it was a little idea in Little Powys, and we held it in a very small area, and locally my colleagues who I knew very well and have been working with for a very long time were really enthusiastic about it, but you never really know what you've got until you start testing it on people who aren't your friends and very close colleagues. So it was kind of that leap of faith in hoping that we had something that was different enough and good enough really to justify promoting it to other organisations. And every time I hear people speak about the feedback from families and see the comments from parents, I feel justified in having done that initially, but you've always got that such a kind of imposter syndrome where you think, well, this is nothing, it's a very, very simple approach, and actually that's the beauty of it. But it also means that if you put it down on paper and explain exactly what it is, people think, well, what's different about that? What's new about that? Why is it interesting? Why should I be paying attention? And it's through the process of working collaboratively. So we co-designed the entire approach with families in Powys right from the beginning, and then through the Adopt and Spread programme, we worked together as a team to decide exactly what should and shouldn't be included, how we were going to deliver the training, how to make it virtual. So it's not my invention that everybody else has picked up. It's a collaborative approach which has been co-designed by everybody involved in it. And it continues to be that. So as we go forward and do this first, that again is being supported by the Bevan Commission, so that we can offer trainer packages to a wider audience. It will continue to be adapted to the needs of local populations, and as we get more and more data in terms of the impact, we'll know more about how to tailor it.
I remember interviewing you part of the way through your exemplar programme and moving into Adopt and Spread, and it was just at the point at which you were joining up the map of South Wales. At this stage, you were actually joining up the team in Newport and the team in Caerphilly, and the Caerphilly team had just come on board, and you were absolutely elated. You didn't seem to have any fear whatsoever about just spreading geographically what you were doing. So can you tell me what gave you this nice positive vibe about the teams around you?
I think speech and language therapy is a very small profession, so we all know each other. We've got a really strong network across Wales, both within Flying Start and really outside Flying Start as well. So I was very confident about the enthusiasm and knowledge and experience of the people who were interested in taking it on. So that it helps, if you know the personalities involved, it helps to be really confident about the fact that people are going to do it as they say they're going to do, and that they're going to be careful about it, and that they're going to work together on it. So I think that was the big thing, really. It would have been much scarier if I'd known absolutely nothing about the places taking it on and the people involved in it.
So as a team, are you going to actually write this up then for wider dissemination? So you're going to write it into a professional practice paper, or do a series of conferences around the world, do a global tour?
Only if the sun is shining, Nick. That's my stipulation.
From the Isle of Anglesey to a global tour, that'll do nicely.
So I'm sure, yes, we will write it up and submit something to conferences. We haven't done so yet. That's another one of those things where it will take somebody else to tell me, I need to knuckle down and crack on with it before I actually take the plunge. But yes, we had the opportunity to present the Bevan exemplar results, so from the initial pilot in Powys, at the International Conference for Integrated Care, which was in San Sebastian, so it wasn't too much hardship to go to San Sebastian and present it there. So I would love to have that opportunity with the team again. If we can all be at the seaside sipping cocktails this time next year, post-conference, that would be amazing.
Good for you. So you can all put international in front of your job on your CV now. International speaker on strength-based approaches to engaging parents and children. That's lovely. So if I move on to Catherine Seeney now and Emily, you've taken steps to help broaden and spread your projects in the last few months. What have you actually been doing, and what have you done, and why?
I'll go first.
Okay.
So within Newport, we have done a couple of pilots. So because we knew we wouldn't be able to offer it preventatively, we linked in with our playing and communicating team, who are really experienced in running groups and interventions in playgroup settings for communication development, and they're really experienced with working with parents. So they attended the training, and we always planned for them to be the ones to actually deliver it. But we needed to work out where our demographic was and what our kind of specific criteria was within Newport, so that we hit the right families, but in the capacity wasn't stretched. We wanted to be able to meet the demand really. So my lovely colleague Della Stando, she's the other speech and language therapist in Newport. We piloted it with some slightly older children, and then we piloted it with younger children. Della piloted it with an EAL family who were actually, there was multiple children in the family. So we've done a little bit of kind of testing of how it works. And we've identified our kind of key demographic, which is our little ones who've declined the initial intervention we offer. And then, very excitingly, this week it's being rolled out to the playing and communicating team. So one particular area have identified families, and I think theirs is due to begin on Thursday. So it's just starting to be offered by the team that we always intended to offer it. So yeah, and we've been linking in. We've been meeting after every session, doing a lot of kind of collaborative reflecting, just to make sure that we were doing it in the same way, we were noticing the same things, and then picking up on good practice from each other. And then we're hoping to continue that as well as they start to roll it out, that it can be a very collaborative kind of process, at least initially, to share good practice and share what works and successes, and maybe troubleshoot any issues that might arise. So we're starting to roll it out, but we are in those early stages. But it's exciting this week that they are going to be doing it with families.
Lovely. Catherine Seeney, what have you been doing? What are you up to now?
Well, Catherine, Emily and myself are also involved in the burst for this Adopt and Spread project. So that is now to invite other areas across Wales into this project, so that we can share this approach further, so to adopt for others to adopt it. And that's going to include some schools as well, so the very nursery age children will be included in that, and that's going to really help us to gather a lot more information and a lot more data about how this approach can be adapted within different settings, as well as with parents at home.
Lovely. And Joanne, where are you going next with your project? Oh, have I lost Joanne? Has she fallen out? Never mind, we have Jodie. And I'm sure you've got your next steps, Jodie. I'm sure that they're all sorted out. What are you working on?
Just to continue rolling out the programme, our team has just grown in numbers, which now means we'll have more early intervention workers that can roll out to more families. We have caseloads, we have waiting lists, we have parents that are eager to go, so we now have the manpower, so it's just to keep going.
Brilliant. And do you stretch up into St Geneth and Abertrydydd?
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. Yeah, because it's quite difficult up there. You're sort of not near Caerphilly necessarily, and it's not easy to travel up and down the valley. So good for you.
We've got some real hard to reach areas, and obviously we work with some real levels of deprivation. The wonderful thing about the programme is it's for everybody. It's accessible for all, which makes it really special.
Yeah, and yeah, a meaningful piece of work if you happen to have been furloughed. Good for you. Good for you. Miriam, what are you working on? Are you continuing to roll out or making modifications?
Yeah, we're continuing to roll out. So, as I said, we've only really started being able to deliver it in the last 2 or 3 weeks. So we're picking up more and more families and identifying further families who will benefit from the support, and just evaluating it as we go along. A huge part of what we do with this is ensure that the practitioners who are delivering it get mentoring throughout, so that they're supported to problem solve, to develop as practitioners, and to go on and upskill themselves. So that's a big part of what we're doing in Cardiff as well, is just making sure that the team are confident in what they're doing, that they're developing, and that any issues that come up, we can problem solve them as we go along.
Brilliant. Good for you. Jenny, are you working on rolling out still, or?
Yeah, sorry. So I'm the lead for Joe's team. So they've done amazing. We took a bit of time getting over some barriers at the beginning, but I'd say since about February the team's really been properly up and running with it. So most practitioners are doing it with all families they're working with now, and we're hoping to train a few more staff in the up and coming months, and just fine tune things really in terms of the kind of post-intervention assessments and stuff that we're doing, so that we can gather better data for outcomes and stuff. But in terms of delivering it to the family, they're rolling with it. They've done amazing.
Excellent. And Joanne, are you rolling out, or have you stopped and thought and improved? Yeah, sorry, I put you on the spot.
Can't hear very
Are you
well. I heard my
continuing to roll
name.
out, or have you made modifications to the original design? Oh, I think I've completely put the kibosh on that one now.
So Joanne's a practitioner in the team within RCT that I'm part of. So yeah, they're rolling it out.
Brilliant. So has anybody made any modification at all to the program, or does it always remain fit for purpose?
Sorry, Nick. I think probably the main modification has been where people have needed to ask the parents to send videos to them in advance rather than. So it was designed as a kind of live approach where you would video parent and child together and then immediately go back over the video with them during that session, so that it's all very fresh. And depending on what platforms were used in the GDPR permissions, some areas did ask parents to submit videos in advance instead, so that they had to do that separately. The practitioner looked at it in advance of the session and then looked at it together during the session. So that's probably the main adaptation that I'm aware of has been done, and that has been quite successful where it's needed to be done.
Okay.
I think in terms of the approach itself, it doesn't need a huge amount of adapting because it is so flexible for every family. So it just fits purpose for every family, that you shouldn't need to adapt it hugely because of the very nature and design of the way we work with them. So inherently, we don't need to make a lot of design and modification changes to it.
Good for you. Right. I've got my last question on my list. That are the questions that I have to ask. This is the one that basically asks, if you met Andrew Goodall, head of the NHS in Wales, or you meet your chief executive, or worse still, one of the finance directors that we always portray as sort of the evil villain. They're not, they're lovely people too. what would you say about the service? So if you met the finance director or your chief executive or the local government or members of your health board, non-executive members of your health board, how would you sell the benefits of the service, and what would you get them to invest in next? Catherine Pape, do you want to have a go at this one?
I knew you were going to ask me that one first.
Go on.
So I think the key really is getting people to understand, first of all, why early speech and language matters and why it's everybody's business. So historically, it's quite often been perceived as quite a specialist area of work, which people associate with things like speech sound difficulties and that kind of thing. So they assume that if a child has got a speech problem, refer them into specialist speech and language therapy services, they'll sort them out and nobody else will have to worry about them. And there's a lot of work going on across Wales and more widely at the moment to make speech and language development in the early years a public health issue that is everybody's business and everybody's problem. So that would be the conversation I would be having with the holders of the purse strings, because if you can get that information across about the impact of language development on so many different life chances, we've got a lot of evidence about the impact on educational outcomes, employability, overrepresentation in the criminal justice system. There's so much evidence out there that if you get the child's early language development right, you are opening a world of opportunity to them. And if you don't get that early intervention and work on that when it's first identified, there are lots of potential problems associated with that. So getting the investment in the early years pays off later.
Okay, and if you sat down with the minister and gave the minister a focus of investment for you and to ring fence time, money or other resources, what would you invest in?
I think I would invest it in workforce development across the whole early years workforce. So I said earlier that one of the reasons this innovation was not difficult for me to kind of say, take it and run with it, was to do with a small profession. But actually, what we don't want to do is be precious about keeping speech and language to ourselves as speech and language therapists. What we need to do is get the information out there, and with such a simple approach, it really is applicable to any practitioner who's got contact with families. So if we can spread this innovation across the whole early years workforce and get people enhancing those responsive interactions between adults and children, then we're going to save a lot of work for the more specialist end of the workforce.
Brilliant. Jenny, you mentioned that you're actually training others, and a lot of the panel members are doing organic training. You're training your own teams and saving a lot of money by training yourselves and developing a common approach. What would you ask the minister for?
I don't know really. I mean, one of the benefits of this approach is that you don't really need a huge amount of special, resources or things to do it. I know that the Bevan Commission made certain funds available over the time since we did the training and started the adoption, but actually we didn't really require anything extra. It's such a simple approach that other than a little bit of technology which was already available, we didn't need it. So I think other than the things that Catherine's already mentioned, that's the same kind of thing that I would focus on, the workforce development. But yeah, sorry, I've been put a bit on the spot. I don't think there is anything else I would plug for.
Good for you. Emily, would you want anything from the minister's pocket?
I don't know. Again, I don't know if I can add anything to what Catherine said, but I think reinforcing that point that if you can get things right at this level, it's in everybody's best interest, because it alleviates pressure on specialist services later down the line, and then the criminal justice service even later down the line again. So it's so important. If you can get this right, then children with transient needs can be resolved outside a specialist service. And that's really, really important. And I think for us, thinking of our own experience and how we've had to really consider capacity as we've gone along, you know, it would be workforce, and it would also be time to be able to deliver this to more families in a more preventative way. And also time for that kind of to be allocated for that supervision, because it's, you know, you get your training and obviously you leave so passionate about it, but then sometimes you watch a video and think, what am I going to pick up here? You know, what is good? Because that can be the nature of that snippet of play that you've captured. So I think that time for group reflection, supervision and collaboration as trained practitioners in Behaviour Clear is so important, to be confident at delivering it and to really get that good feedback and boost those parents' confidence. So more time for delivery, and then more time for kind of that collaborative sessions, I guess, for those who are delivering it would be really good.
Brilliant, brilliant, good for you. If I see the Minister, I ask for a little batch of statues to be put up across Wales to you guys, because I think you're terrific examples of the Bevan principles in practice. And to be fair, the culture of the team across Wales in all these different locations, from the most urban of urban parts of Wales to the most rural of rural parts of Wales, is just so infectious. And I have to admit, when I'm on a down day, it's this type of project you like to go back in and have a look at the videos. So congratulations to every one of you, because you've made a significant impact to a lot of people's lives and made better parents out of parents, and hopefully better children as they develop now. And if you do look at the finance of it, the social return on investment for parents and children and for the Welsh nation is incredibly high. So thank you very much on behalf of everybody in the virtual room. I take my hat off to you and I applaud you for everything you've done and sticking with it during COVID, adding more members to your networks and increasing the reach of what you've been doing. So fair play to you. Thank you very much. So on that note, I'm going to draw this session to a close and thank all the panelists and everybody in the room for contributing. Thank you ever so much for sharing your project, and I hope you have a great year ahead. And we'll see you back in the main session. So thanks for joining us, and please do keep in touch. Thanks, Chris. Thank you.
Hello, we're back backstage now, so everyone can relax.